Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. A second case of monkeypox in Jamaica. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 27th July 2022. Details when we return.
Is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Jamaica has confirmed its second case of monkeypox, this one coming from New York. More in this TVJ News item.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the patient is in isolation.
Well, there's not much more to say than what was put in the release, that there's a second case. They saw an individual from Clarendon and who recently returned from the U.S. This person is isolated and contact tracing is taking place. We continue to advise the public about precautions to take, and to consult a doctor if they have any symptoms.
Symptoms of monkeypox include fever, intense headache, pain, and rash. Persons can minimize the risk of monkeypox by wearing a mask, washing or sanitizing hands, and physical distancing. The first confirmed case of monkeypox in Jamaica was reported to the country on July 6. The patient, who traveled from the United Kingdom, remains in isolation. The Health Ministry is closely monitoring members of his family after one of the close contacts recently began showing symptoms. Our news center was told that regular tests are being done on the family members. So far, the tests are negative.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Philip J. Pierce says the government will not rest until the crime situation in St. Lucia is brought under control. Don Nicholas of the DBS News World reports.
On Monday, Prime Minister Philip Pierre confirmed that the government had deployed officers from the Regional Security System, RSS, to help battle the current crime wave in St. Lucia. The government had indicated from last month that it would be heading in that direction.
Yes, they are in St. Lucia, and then they were deployed on Carnival Monday. I don't know whether you saw them. I have not got a report on the operational efficiency as yet. But I hope that they can add to the numbers that are the numbers of men on the ground, because as you know, they're going to be embedded in the police.
The Prime Minister's confirmation comes amid heavy gun battles in Vieux Fort, which has negatively impacted businesses in the south of the island and left residents in the affected areas fearing for their lives. On Monday, the Prime Minister reiterated government's commitment to bring the situation under control.
We will continue to give resources to the police. I've outlined the measures that the government has taken regarding the situation. But again, we are extremely concerned, and we will do all we can to halt that scourge of crime in this country.
The Prime Minister spoke just ahead of Monday's cabinet session. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Meanwhile, Don Nicholas tells us that St. Lucia's Tourism Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire is concerned about dwindling regional travel, which he says is hurting the tourism industry. The Caribbean is St. Lucia's second leading source market for visitors to the island. Most of the island's visitors are from the United States.
2019, according to Tourism Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire, despite the high cost of regional travel, St. Lucia recorded 83,000 visitor arrivals. Compare that to under 10,000 arrivals so far for 2022. This, the minister declares, is taking a major toll on the tourism industry.
Even with high prices in 2019, we had 83,000. And for 2022, we are still below 10,000 regional arrivals. So if you put aside the cost of regional travel, the actual connectivity.
Dr. Hilaire also compared 2019 to the current situation in terms of the number of seats available for regional travel. Back then, there were over 150,000 in comparison to a mere 25,000 so far for this year.
So we have a serious problem with availability for regional travel. and it's having a dramatic impact on St. Lucia.
This data comes at a time when regional arrivals were the second highest source of visitor arrivals for St. Lucia. For the DBS News World, I'm Don Nicholas.
In Haiti, hundreds of people, mostly children, are sheltering in a school in the capital of Port-au-Prince after gun violence killed 400 people for this month alone. Al Jazeera Television has more in this report.
These Haitians say their homes are no longer a safe place. In the midst of gang wars, they've sought shelter at an empty school. 16-year-old Michelet Jean was at home one Saturday when he was hit by a stray bullet.
There was no school that day. We stayed at home, and there was a lot of shooting. Many people were killed, many people were shot, and some didn't have a chance to save themselves. The situation is really bad.
Hundreds of people are sleeping in classrooms, some on shared mattresses, others on the cold floor. Many children came here without their parents. One community leader says they wore their school uniforms so gangsters would think they were going to class.
The children said that the situation had worsened on Saturday, 16th of July, that they couldn't find water to drink, that they couldn't find food, that they wanted to go out. So on Sunday, we went to take them out.
Others are still trapped in the city's poorest neighborhood, caught up in a turf war. UN agencies say they can do nothing. It's too dangerous. Those who did manage to escape are scarred by what they experienced.
I found the bullet next to my head. I was sleeping and I heard the bullet. I had a child with me and I told him to get under the bed.
Violent crime has increased since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse last year. The political instability has emboldened gangs.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
It seems after years of former July 27, 1990 Parliament hostage Wendell Eversley begging, pleading, crying and walking alone to commemorate the attempted coup, there may soon be an official ceremony in Tobago to observe that fateful day and the memory of the late former Prime Minister and President A.N.R. Robinson. This from Deputy Chief Secretary Watson Duke as he spoke in Tobago on Monday during a wreath-laying ceremony at the Scarborough Methodist Cemetery. More from TV6's Elizabeth Williams.
What is the most hurtful thing? 41 of them who sit in our parliament do not recognize July the 27th and the role that A.N.R. Robinson played. A son of the soil of Tobago. The sitting Prime Minister today, 7 years in that seat, 7 years I've been writing him letters. Never one day get acknowledgement.
Mr. Eversley said he is fed up with promises and no action in the matter by the relevant authorities over the years. He was reduced to tears while speaking with us and called on the THA to act.
Said I begging you all to come and lay wreath. I should get an invitation to come to a wreath laying ceremony. I'm begging you. This is not about politics. And I pleaded with you. Don't let today and July the 27th pass by.
Present at the cemetery, Deputy Chief Secretary Watson Duke said the legacy of the late Arthur N.R. Robinson would be remembered, and the Tobago House of Assembly has already started to put the necessary systems in place to do just that.
Under Secretary Zia Hackett, Secretary for Education, she has already commenced an exercise that would see a change in the school curriculum for Tobago. One where we will begin to learn Tobago things, and not just things, but before our 4 years tenure is over, we will see the name of A.N.R. Robinson in our school books written. We would see the name of Winston Murray in our school books, A.P.T. James, and James Bigart, and all the others who would have played a part for us to reach where we have reached today. Tobago is not the same. You're under new management now.
Next year, Duke said, would see the biggest commemoration, also laying a wreath at the graveside of the late Prime Minister and President, former Finance and Foreign Affairs Minister Winston Dukeran. Mr. Dukeran, who worked along with the late Mr. Robinson, said Mr. Robinson has not been credited sufficiently in the nation for the many roles he has played in the politics and development of the country.
He was a man of great stamina, a man of great principle, and a man of great foresight. And for all these things, I remember A.N.I. Robinson very well.
The recently launched book, The Defense Force Response to the Jamaat al-Muslimin 1990 Attempted Coup, written by former Brigadier General in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and the former PNM MP Ansel Antwine, was also presented to Mr. Eversley. On Wednesday, Mr. Eversley would be walking from the Dial in Arima to the Eternal Flame on the grounds of the Red House in observance of the 32nd anniversary of July 27, 1990. Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News.
There will be no debate on allegations of corruption against Vice President Barrett Jagdeo. In shutting down the motion, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir, believes it is not urgently necessary. Here is more from HGP's Travis Chase.
The fact that corruption is rampant in this society, that I rise to request an adjournment on definite matters of urgent importance so that this House can entertain the motion that is attached.
A motion by the opposition leader for Parliament to debate for an international investigation into bribery and corruption allegations made against Vice President Barrett Jagdeo has been shot down by Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir. The Speaker told the 48th sitting of the National Assembly on Thursday that the matter is not of urgent importance and that the allegations against VP Jagdeo are just that, mere media allegations.
But applying the two basic principles of urgency and public importance, I do not see the urgency in this. While the issue of corruption is important to all of us, the urgency of the particular allegation I cannot accept, and so I deny this request.
In spite of the well-publicized documentaries by Vice News, which exposes corruption at the highest level of government in Guyana, Speaker Manzoor Nadir does not believe that there is sufficient evidence before him for him to consider the matter urgent enough to be debated in Parliament.
And the basis for that request are media allegations of corruption. And I have seen in the media many such allegations of corruption against many current members of this assembly. And if we have to take every allegation in the press on any issue, then as a matter of urgent public importance, then we are going to have, in my view, a parliament that will be considerably debased.
Opposition leader Aubrey Norton on Tuesday submitted the motion to Clerk of the National Assembly, Sherlock Isaacs, calling for an impartial international investigation against Vice President Barrett Jagdeo. The motion was filed after a Vice News report shows that Jagdeo's former tenant Su Jirong made a series of allegations against him, alleging bribe for contracts. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
Hubbard's Multi-Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.